All right. Without further ado, then I let the word over to Mr. Henrik Littorin. He's the program director for ELIS, Battery Electric Powered Commuter Aviation. Take it from here, Henrik.
Thank you so much for the kind invitation to speak. I will start to share my screen. There we are. I have a 20-year-old background in aviation and working a lot with sustainability issues. And 2.5 years ago, we set up the structure of a development program for electric aviation in Skellefteå in the northern part of Sweden and the Nordic region. And we are now creating a test bed for electric aviation that I will tell you a bit about. Just for everyone to understand where this is. It is in, as I said, in the northern part of Sweden, but also in the far northern part of Europe. But Skellefteå actually went into the Times list of the world's greatest places in 2022. And it's a really vibrant place. And a lot of it is thanks to Northvolt. They are building Europe's largest gigafactory for batteries in Skellefteå at the moment. But it's also almost 100 billion euros poured into investment in green tech and clean tech in northern Sweden, much thanks to the amount of green and affordable electricity that is available in this part of Europe. So I can say that Skellefteå opens up a number of opportunities that I will speak a bit about further on. You can see how Northvolt is looking. About 25% of this is built at the moment, but the pond that you see in the forefront, it's about the size of the Snapdragon Stadium in San Diego. So it's huge, and the buildings in the back, they are 40 meters high. So it's really huge, especially for a municipality with approximately 75,000 inhabitants. But if we move over to aviation, if you look at the left-hand side, we can see a traditional jet aircraft and a turboprop aircraft. And the entire aviation system in the world is built around these two, more or less these two aircraft types. But in a few years from now, we will have to handle small electric aircraft, slightly larger electric aircraft, and hydrogen-powered aircraft, eVTOLs that will take off and land vertically. We will have old aircraft that are being converted with electric drivetrains, and also drones that will both deliver goods, but be more and more common in search and rescue, in police, firefighting, etc. So it's a lot of complexity that we will need to handle, and the regulation and the technology isn't there yet, which is important to understand. We also have a new complexity on the ground, because an airport at the moment is built around the deployment of Jet A1. It's a very standardized process. It is practically the same all around the world. But in a few years from now, we will have more and more biofuel that we need to have in the system. We will also look into much more power supply at airports. Some of it locally produced from, for example, solar, some from the grid. We will need energy storage to avoid peaks, and we work with peak shaving. And we will also add hydrogen in the ecosystem and fuel with hydrogen. And you can understand that adding all of this in a very regulated airport environment and blend an aircraft with maybe 25 tons of Jet A1 close to a lot of batteries, energy storage, hydrogen is not an easy thing to do. But we need to start, and it is some of this is what we try to achieve now in Skellefteå to help the ecosystem to solve this challenge. So what we do is actually trying to create a test bed for electric aviation in Skellefteå, because we can see that there are so many things that we need to take care of if we're going to make this a reality and actually have electric aircraft and vertically takeoff and landing eVTOLs in a few years from now, because we will have the vehicles certified. We don't really know when, but if we have them, they are no worth if we don't have the rest of the ecosystem in place. So what we can see in Skellefteå is that we have a cold climate and really harsh weather conditions, and it will be necessary to test and develop in tough conditions. So we can test in from minus 25 degrees Celsius to plus 25 degrees. We can test in snow, wind, fog, etc. And it's also an empty airspace, so it's easy to create testing and get slots for testing. And that's not a reality in many other places in Europe. There's also, as I said before, the access to green and affordable electricity. We installed last year, and we inaugurated a 1 megawatt power supply at the airport at airside. It is dedicated for electric aviation, and it's free to use to do those that want to do tests. Probably one of the most powerful power supplies for this purpose in Europe, and it's already being used. I'll tell you in a while about that. There's also a lot of competence being created by Northvolt. For example, when it comes to batteries and electrification overall, we have close cooperation with one technical university that are now setting up a campus in Skellefteå only focused on electrification and batteries due to the Northvolt establishment. Then there's also, as I said before, aviation is very regulated, and if you do something and test something that you can certify in Sweden, you have an easier way to certify it all over Europe within the EASA framework, which is the European Aviation Safety Agency. So we try to cooperate closely with the authorities. But there's also local demand for new type of sustainable and fast transportation in this area, because we have a lot of places inland in Sweden where the ground infrastructure isn't really good. No railways, the roads are narrow in the winter time, slippery, and we also have quite a short distance to like 150 kilometers to Finland, but it takes 7 hours to go by car and 7 hours if you go by car, take a ferry and car again. And you could fly in 30 minutes. And if you can do that in a sustainable and cost-efficient way, this will open up a lot of opportunities for companies and people. And this kind of regional enlargement can be applied in many places around the world, not at least in the US, where there are a lot of small regional airports and airfields that could be used again in this way. So where are we today regarding this test bed? Well, as I said, we have the 1 megawatt power supply. It's already there, ready to use. But due to that, we got the establishment of a flight academy. So now we have 3 electric aircraft at the airport. They are based and they are used regularly every day. So they are becoming like a flying test bed, even though it's a commercial operation. And the picture, one of the pictures is that aircraft in a day when it was minus 25 degrees. And then you realize how tough this is, because the batteries don't take charge outside. You have to have the aircraft inside. You charge it, then you move it from plus 10 degrees to minus 25, and more than 30 degrees difference in temperature, a lot of strain on the components. So this is really things where you don't really, it's not only the batteries, you have to test the airframe, the wheels, the electric engine, the heating, propellers, composites, everything. Then we have during this year created a test track for eVTOLs that take off and land vertically between the airport and the Northvolt Gigafactory. It's a 13-kilometer test track where we can actually fly, and we did that in September with a large wing drone that you see the bottom of the page, where we flew beyond visual line of sight on this test track and try to simulate passenger transportation as well. Then in the middle picture, you see the Luleå Technical University measuring electromagnetic interference at the aircraft and at the charger, because this is a field that could be a showstopper, because we will create a lot of new electromagnetic interference when we have new electric vehicles in the airport environment. And the airport environment have a lot of radio communication between vehicles on the ground with air traffic control, etc. So it will be super important that everything is safe and secure in this field. And now Luleå Technical University is building world-leading research around this within our test program, which is super interesting. We're also looking into drones and drone logistics. And we had a meeting with the US Embassy in Sweden last year. They visited, and just to see, could we have future cooperation in this field? The fine thing with aviation is that it is a truly global industry, so it's very easy to cooperate all around the world. And just before wrapping up, since I said that we are really now developing a test bed in many aspects, this is from when we flew with a large wing drone, and it's a lot of work on the ground. You fly for 7 minutes between Northvolt and the airport, but it's like 3 hours of preparations, and then it's a lot of time behind the computer and doing things. And it's very important to understand that we are still in this stage. So we have some years before we can use this in a commercial scale. But to have the infrastructure to be able to do this kind of tests, it will be super important in the years to come to be able to certify a larger aircraft and drones and eVTOLs. This is how the test track looks. Doesn't look very tough, 13 kilometers, but to do this, it requires a lot of work with the authorities, with the technology, regarding the air traffic control, etc. And we have a testbed structure now with, well, the infrastructure, the physical infrastructure at the airport. We have gathered a lot of industry partners and partners from the academia, and now we are, well, looking to fill this with developers that will be able to use this infrastructure and testbed to accelerate the development in both in the value chain and with the actual vehicles. And it will be super interesting if we can take a position there. We don't know yet how this will work, but I know, and this is my last slide, that we probably have the world's most beautiful charging station for electric aircraft. This is how it looks like. It's up and running. Designed it with the roof and the shape of a wing. And Skellefteå also home to the world's tallest wooden building, 80 meters high. A very interesting building in many aspects. So I hope that we can find some future cooperation in this field. Would be super interesting. So thank you so much for the opportunity to present this, I will stop sharing my screen now. Yeah, thank you so much.